Welcome, everyone. Happy Monday. I'm the Grace Strega, and I'm here to give you your daily collective read for today, Monday, May 12th. 2025. What do we have coming through in the cards for today? May I please have the first two cards in our 5-card spread? First two cards we are starting our day off with today is the Judgment card in its reversal in combination with our Three of Wands in its reversal. I like this. I like this energy. And here's the thing. We're going to talk a little bit about this full moon, because the thing about I'm seeing, the one thing I want to talk to, and you're probably feeling a little bit of this, okay? This full moon in Scorpio, I'm a big fan of full moons in Scorpio because they're often about working through the context of change. They can be really transformative, but they can also be a little triggering. They can also be a little they can kind of work in that space of challenging us. But here's the thing. I already got 2 more cards out that are center cards for today's spread. I'm going to put those here. You know, a lot of this work that we're seeing that's happening, specifically and particularly over this cycle, has to do with working through the incongruity of the fact that we're having the Scorpio full moon in Taurus energy. And it has to do with working through the lessons and understanding how difficult change is. But when we're doing that work in looking at things with a point, when we don't work, and it also has a lot to do with healing the ego at the same way. Because when we're in the space of being too rigid, right? When we're too much in our ego, and the reason we call it like being fragile in the ego is that the ego can't navigate change very well, right? The ego wants to hold on to things. And often when we're holding on to something too tightly that doesn't energetically serve us, it feels like we have breakdowns, right? We have those moments that feel they take us apart. But when we're doing the work effectively, right? When we look, like when we investigate, when we try to understand our own weaknesses, this is how we become energetically stronger, because we don't look at, and this is why we have to heal from the falsehood of perfection, remembering that perfection is a cardinal direction. It's not something that you can find on the map. And the irony is that when you work, often, what does it feel like when you're becoming perfect? Like the journey of becoming perfect often feels like you're just getting better at failing. It's often those moments that you identify and you recognize and you work on something and you work on something and you work on something and you work on something. And sometimes you can't even tell how far you've come until that day arrives and something reminds you of something and you look back and you're able to chart your progress. You're able to see what that looks like. And so I feel like the thing with this Scorpio full moon happening in Taurus season is it's working in the positive space of identifying what resilience and determination bring forth, right? And a lot of that work, it feels often incremental, right? It feels like baby steps. But that ability of doing so, that's also identifying something that we've become stronger at. And this is why we do that, because we keep on talking a lot right now between, and this is, I keep on getting, the thing is, and I just got to tell you guys, this is just the message coming through. Mercury being in Taurus right now is going to feel a bit like a Mercury retrograde. It's going to feel a little bit like a Mercury retrograde. Mercury does not like being in Taurus energy. It's like, it's too heavy. It's too dense. It's like, but that's what's beautiful about it, because when we do something we're not very good at, but we give ourselves the ability to try to learn, right? We work in that determination point, right? It feels like it's something that becomes stronger, right? It feels like that appreciation of what it takes to become strong in something that you're not necessarily good at, right? And that's the work that we often do when we're identifying and recognizing and moving towards our manifestations, right? It's not just about being comfortable. A healthy manifestation The reason that a manifestation is not a wish is because it's an activation, right? It's something that you also move towards. So I keep on seeing that a lot of this energy that we're experiencing right now, it does say to me, like, there's closures that are happening, but they're saying to me that they're the closures that are happening as it relates to identifying and recognizing, like, I keep on getting, it almost feels like an energetic intermission moment, because it's almost like this moment of rest to help one observe how much one has changed, if that makes sense. Center spread cards for today's spreads, which are already out. Wow, yes, exactly what I'd be expecting right now. So you may have saw that these cards came out as I was speaking, and we basically have center of today's spread, the 10 of Pentacles and the Tower card. Now, honestly, when you look at these, they may feel energetically incongruous, right? But not necessarily, because you'll remember this is effectively how it feels to be in the Taurus energy with the Scorpio full moon, because a lot of this work that we talk about is understanding that when we're transforming, when we're changing, right? We don't run away from change. We welcome change. We celebrate change, because it's the observation of identifying what we're trying to work on, right? What we're trying to get better at, that adaptability point from which anything can occur, versus those moments or those circumstances or situations that feel like they make us fall apart. And again, we've talked a lot about over the last few days in terms of like the difference between a breakthrough and a breakdown has a lot to do with the ability to articulate through something, right? Moving through the heart to throat chakra versus reacting to something, right? And so I just keep on seeing that even now, the ability to talk something out, the ability to work something through, the ability to reach a point of adaptability, this is creating new ground by which new things can happen. But it's not easy. And it is having a different impact depending on where you find yourselves on the frequency cycles. Now, if you'll recall, we talked a lot about the fact that for the energy in separation, there's a lot of energy in separation right now that's going through, like, this is all of these, I keep on hearing these are magician relationships. Why are they magician relationships? Because this is the energy that we're talking about. Like, what is it that they're moving away from? They're recognizing the changes within the self, bringing them towards their manifestation goals, inhabiting a space of looking towards partnership as an illusion-free zone, right? Doing that work, identifying what it is that they're working on, both within and without. And this is how these energies right now in separation are reaching deeper levels of authenticity, because this is not the energy that stays stagnant as they're trying to come into partnership. This isn't the energy that looks around and goes, why isn't it happening? Right? This is the energy that works towards partnership with the space of basically understanding and working on the self in the context of being able to find their authenticity. This is the energy that's healing from the illusion of rejection, because this is the energy that says, as long as we are proud of ourselves, if we understand what it is that we're working on, right? Almost like coming towards partnership in a space of not being perfect. And then immediately healing from the modality or the fear of rejection. Because if you're in your authenticity, if you're energetically authentic, if you're energetically proud of what it is that you do and what you're trying to accomplish, if you meet a person that navigates you in that modality and they have aversion to it, you don't perseverate over it. You don't worry about it. Because again, and this is what we talk about here, about the misconception that non-attachment means that you don't care about anything. But non-attachment doesn't mean that you don't care about something. Non-attachment effectively means that how another person holds you, right? The esteem that they bring to you, right? We don't worry about or we don't agonize over it, because effectively there's only one energy within another that we are responsible for, and that is confusion, because we can always bring clarity to that space. So that's why I keep on seeing that a lot of these new partnerships, they're hitting the ground running. They're doing the hard part first. They're not beating around the bush. They're not waiting for the ideal time. I feel like there's a lot of that energy here, because in that modality of recovering from some kind of misconception as it relates to past relationship, this is a relationship that, again, this is why they're magician partnerships, because they're saying clarity in all things, right? They're giving each other that benefit, and they're creating in that space of being able to articulate through things with a practicality that the other is potentially seeing as very refreshing. This brings us to a lot of the energy right now coming into divine union. Can I get 2 cards, please? We've got here the 4 of swords in combination with our 7 of swords in its upright. This is a lot of Saturn being on the move right now, is what I'm seeing. A lot of, I keep on recognizing and identifying a lot of this work is emotionally bittersweet. And especially for the energy coming into divine union, you'll recall one of the things that we spoke about that is difficult is recognizing and identifying. I think I just mentioned the fact that for a lot of that energy coming into divine union, going into a heart opening right now, this is the energy that, I want to describe this here. There's, and this is what, and everything I keep on seeing, remember, this is what we've talked about. Being able to release sadness, being able to release grief. Why do we see that there's so much energy right now coming into divine union that is building into the context with counterpart in finding an ability to release grief? Because this is the energy, you'll remember, that has found, like I told you, the breakthrough to a breakdown, right? This is why we heal from trauma. We don't heal from trauma to welcome in more trauma. We heal from trauma because often when we haven't done the work of healing from the trauma, when we enter a healthy space, it almost feels like it's not real. But this is the energy that's healing with one another because they're giving each other that reality check. They're helping each other see and identify that that is the stabilization point that they're able to find with one another. And that's where I can see so much of this, like Saturn transiting, because this is the energy that says, if it could always be this energetically peaceful, what was all of that? Like, what was all of that? Right? And they're working through, like, this is a very Taurus, this is a very Scorpio, this is a very Scorpio full moon Taurus lesson with Jupiter and Gemini, because this is the energy that's almost articulating and forgiving themselves for for a level of healing that they didn't even realize that they were able to come into, because they've never been in a place to be able to do so. You know, that's what can be so painful. This is almost like, this is what we talk about as it relates to the fact that what's hard about trauma is trauma. Like, learning to heal from trauma is not learning to be okay with everything that's happened. It's learning to put the weapons away, right? It's learning to be able to identify and put something down that you used to have to need to protect yourself. And so I keep on seeing that there's a lot of that path work that's occurring right there in spaces of forgiveness, but not just forgiveness of the self, but almost like that ability of identifying how much one has changed, or being able to see what one is moving towards, right? There's a lot of that adaptability there, but it's painful, right? Because they're Saturn lessons. This brings us to the energy deep within divine union. Clarification between our judgment card in its reversal in combination with our 3 of wands in its reversal. One card to clarify. Oh, we got 2 cards coming out right now. Chariot and the 10 of wands in its reversal. So, one of the things that I'm seeing here has to do in relationality to, and I just kind of want to describe like what I'm seeing here. This is interesting because I'm seeing that for a lot of the energy deep within divine union right now, there's a lot of this, there's a lot, this is like, I'm just seeing a lot of energetic release that's happening. And also like a lot of relief to a certain extent. Like there's something that's very important that's occurring in relationality to this, because it feels, and I want to stress this, and we've talked a little bit about this. There's a lot of the energy that's articulating and looking for things that they could be doing better. I just keep on seeing there's a lot of that heavy intensity or heavy scrutiny of the self that is occurring deep within divine union. But that's what's really beautiful about doing that work, because I see even now that for a lot of the energy deep within divine union, looking and identifying and trying to work on something that you're trying to do in a better way, like it feels like, I feel like this is a full moon that opens up a lot of that fastidiousness. But a lot of that fastidiousness, it feels like it's reaffirming, because I just keep on seeing that there's a lot of the energy deep within divine union doing that work in relationality to fine-tuning relationships, to be able to articulate and recognize what it is that they want, what they could be doing better, or something that they're energetically healing from. So there's a lot of, like, I keep on seeing a lot of fine-tuning right now for energy deep within divine union. Continuing to get clarification between our Three of Wands in combination with our Ten of Pentacles, in combination with that Tower card. Really intense energy today. There is the Lover's card in its upright. The one thing I'm going to say, and that I'm seeing here, is there's something very fundamental and important that's occurring right now, particularly and especially in relationality to working towards harmony. And the thing about harmony that is interesting is when we're talking towards, like, and that's why I think that it's interesting, because it's a transformative moon, but it's also a harmonious moon, because everything I keep on seeing here is identifying and recognizing, like working on, like I keep on seeing, trying to resolve something in such a way that you can make something energetically better. Like, right, like there's, and that's why I keep on hearing that there's this message that's coming through with Gemini season in relationality to disassembling something in order to build it back in a better way. Now, for the energy in separation, what's really beautiful is I see that that is almost the gift that that the counterparts are working on as it relates to building into healthy connection. Because this is the energy that is almost, they're not trying to create a false sense of self. They're not working in part, they're not trying to come into out of separation by trying to be something other than they're not. Rather, like I just keep on seeing that this is a lot of the energy that is looking for authentic connection by building into the authenticity of the self. Because when we are authentic with ourselves, then we're able to easily see what's for us versus what's not. Okay? Because we've talked a lot about this here. Like, this is the energy that says, if I'm good with myself, right? Like, we see this in the Lover's card. This is why the Lover's cards are exposed. We talk a lot about this, again, in my tarot class on this card. This is the energy that says, when we work into being good with ourselves, understanding the majesty of ourselves, right? It allows us to be seen. And then in the experience of being seen, it allows us to have a healthy counterpart that finds us. This is why I keep on getting that a lot of the energy right now in separation is embracing that magician energy. Because that's the energy that says to the self as they're doing that journey, it's not easy, right? The ego wants to the ego wants to say things like, nobody will like us, right? Like, nobody will like us. And that's when we work on the ego, that we say, like, no, you got to chill out, right? Because when we're working to build a healthy ego, it's building into that space of coming to appreciate every part of ourselves, even our anxiety, even our fear, even our uncertainty. Because everything I keep on seeing there is, and I can hear both masculine and feminine saying this, coming like in separation, bearing in mind this is not based on gender, but what it feels most aligned to. If I'm moving towards another in my authenticity, and someone doesn't like what they see, that's not that's not a bad thing. That's a blessing, because why would you want to move closer to someone that doesn't like you and your authenticity? Like, there's the energy. Like, that's the energy that's recognizing and seeing the blessing in disguise that is rejection when we like ourselves. Like, and so I feel like there's something very beautiful and restorative about the energy working to be in the space of appreciating the self. There's some deep healing happening right now for energy and separation. And this brings us to the energy coming into divine union right now. Clarification between our 10 of Pentacles, our Tower card, and our 4 of Swords in its upright. One card to clarify, please. Clarification coming through right now with our King of Wands in its upright. Now, this is very intriguing, because one of the things that we've been seeing right now has to do with the different impacts between how masculine and feminine is navigating through a lot of this energy right now. I'm going to point this out again. There is some asymmetry right now in relationality to the work that both masculine and feminine are doing. For feminine, a lot of this space of this full moon is coming into one's own confidence. I just keep on seeing it's building into that space of the feminine. And I feel like there's, and I'm not surprised to see this too, because we've got a lot of Leo. We've got Mars and Leo right now. This is the energy of feminine. I almost hear the feminine saying across all of the frequencies, I'm proud of me, right? Because there's something about the feminine energy coming into that space of being able to feel strong, or being able to feel like standing upon the space of identifying how far they've come. There's a lot of that feminine energy that is, I keep on hearing, not over worrying so much about the thoughts of others, right? And when we do that, it's like, this is how we make peace, is what I keep on hearing, right? And so I keep on hearing like the feminine energy is making peace as it relates to what is beyond their own energetic control, right? And that's why I keep on seeing that that's like the feminine energy that's like very much in Chariot energy, because this is the feminine energy that's not allowing their thoughts to get the energetic best of them, right? It's working in that context of being able to identify and recognize how that feels and being able to communicate upon it in the process. For masculine, this is a lot more feeling like energetic retrieval. For masculine energy, I'm just seeing that this is a lot more of the masculine that's doing that work in terms of being able to find the inner child healing, and almost like almost being in a space of saying, I am becoming the energetic force that my inner child will be proud of, right? And I think that one of the things that we're seeing that is, if this is a lot of the energy of the masculine letting go of outside disappointment, letting go of working in that space of feeling like one has to strive to achieve masculinity, but rather the fact that you carry it within the self. This is a lot of the energy of the masculine that's coming into that space of being able to communicate upon their feelings better, because they're learning and understanding that feelings are not anthemic to masculinity. They're part and parcel upon it. So there's a lot of that energy in terms of building strength and finding that resiliency, but also doing the hard thing in the process. Continuing to get clarification between our 4 of Swords in combination with our 6 of Swords in its upright. May I please have one card to clarify? Clarification coming through right now with our Hanged Man. Now, we got to talk about this. So, there's a lot of energy right now going through, it feels very much like breakthroughs. And what's beautiful about that, and we've kind of talked about this, is the energy of the difference between a breakthrough and a breakdown is articulated in one's ability to talk through something versus an ability to react upon it. And that's why I keep on seeing that for a lot of the energy coming into divine union right now, those Chariot partnerships, it's a lot. I just keep on seeing that this is the energy that's communicating in ways that they never have before, sharing their journeys, but not just sharing their journeys, but seeing their journeys in different ways. Because when we reach, I keep on hearing, when we find the stabilization point in partnership, it feels like higher ground. And what is the gift that we have with stable energetic relationships? that provide that context of stability. They give us the gift of perspective. And so this is a lot of energy right now that's working on the healing that comes via that adjusted perspective. And it's not easy, right? Because again, we talk about a good healing journey. Like, it's not just about everything looking perfect. It's seeing things that you couldn't see before. There's like I feel like there's a lot of wisdom that's coming through, because a lot of that wisdom is being able to recognize and identify, right? Like the path work in the past where you might not have been ready to inhabit that stabilization point. Because if you're not ready to heal from your trauma, you often come into the space of repeating it, right? And so I almost feel like there's a lot of that energy that's just like looking back on things and with a whole different context, but they're talking to one another with the gift of perspective, because that is the gift that they're able to bring one another in the process. Now, for masculine and feminine that are deep within divine union right now, clarification between our Chariot card in its upright, the Ten of Wands in its reversal, and the Lovers card. Can I please get one card to clarify? Clarification coming through right now with the Justice card. Yeah, this is interesting because I feel like what we're seeing that's happening right now for a lot of the energy that is deep within divine union, and I think it has a lot to do with that shift of Mercury into Taurus. I feel like I see a lot of that energy moving out of temperance and into justice. Now, what's important about that is you have to understand that the Justice card is the identification point of finding and working towards balance, right? It's not easy. It's not easy. It's not easy when you're doing that kind of work, right? It's working into identifying, and I keep on seeing, like, that's why there's a lot of that space of also working towards patience. Because being able to find balance, like balance is something that you continually have to adjust, right? And that work or that space, being able to articulate upon it, I keep on seeing that there's a lot of patience that is happening right now, deep within divine union. But it is the patience of being able to amplify and articulate like what it means to be able to find that space. And I can see even now, like, this could be a little bit of that energetic accommodation point, a little bit of that adaptability, a little bit of that fine tuning. It's working. It's like it's looking at something, and I like this. This is the energy that doesn't look at something. It's like this is the energy that's constantly looking at something and saying, how can we make something better? How can we work in terms of fine tuning? And so I keep on seeing that this could be a lot of intimate conversations that are happening right now for energy deep within divine union, as it relates to like what those adjustments are, and even and either within the self or outside of the self. And it does feel like a little bit of orientation as it relates to looking back upon the pathwork of the past to appreciate. It's like it feels both like celebration in terms of recognizing and identifying benchmarks in the self, while simultaneously setting those intentions going forward. Continuing to get clarification between our Lovers card and our King of Wands in its upright. We've got here the Knight of Wands in its reversal. Now, this is very intriguing because, and I did tell you, the thing about this full moon is it's going to be hitting, and I keep on wanting to describe this. A moon like this can feel a little bit difficult because, like, a lot of the themes that often identify with a moon such as this is looking at what one has work to do, like where the work needs to go, right? And that's why, like, if you're in a healthy space, it's like you don't shy away from doing a little work, right? It's like it's understanding the accommodations, because we talk a lot about the fact that, like, a good spiritual journey is not one that you look around and say, like, I'm perfect and everything else is wrong around me. Like, that's not a spiritual journey. That's a righteous journey. Like, that's somebody right? Like it's not working. If you're more in the space of working towards aversion, this could feel more frustrating, right? But in that ability of being adaptable, in that ability of being able to see something and be like, oh, I could do that better. I could adjust that. I could, you know what I mean? Like when you're in that space of excitement in relationality to working towards perfection, then this is a good moon for that, because it allows for those points of like, recognizing where it is that you want to transform, right? Like, but if you're more in the space that and we talked a little bit about this, like holding on to something and refusing to let go, like that's what can sometimes, like a moon like this can sometimes create more of a pain point, because, and we talk a little bit about this here. When we're holding on to something that's energetically important, it's an honor to carry it. It feels like it fortifies us, right? It feels like it reaffirms us. But when we're holding on to something that is not healthy for us, it's often identified and recognized in the bitterness that it creates, right? Because that space of bitterness can often be indicative of the fact that the ego is holding on to something, right? And the higher self saying, like, and we talk a little bit about this here, like that when we carry trauma upon things, it's, we're not responsible for the trauma that occurs to us, but how we carry it makes a big deal of difference, because those moments that we understand that we're holding on to something that doesn't feel like it creates that positivity point. Like I see that there's a lot of work right now that's potentially happening in this moon in recognizing like what those wounds are, also to how to kind of recognize how to shift them into a space that feels like they fortify instead of create those points of feeling energetically weak. And that's what I meant about this being a heavy moon of both contemplation and activation, bearing into the aspect of understanding like what it feels like to be able to put your heart towards something that matters. Continuing to get clarification between our King of Wands in combination with our Hangman energy. One card to clarify, there's that Four of Wands in its reversal. Now, the thing that we're seeing here to a certain extent, and I just want to kind of point this out, because like a lot of this work that we're identifying here, and I have to describe it as, and this is, here's, and this is what's great about it, is, in one way, we could look at the Scorpio full moon and Taurus season and feel like it is energetically incongruous, right? In one way, we could look at it and say the Scorpio energy doesn't like being in the Taurus energy. But ultimately, the thing that we're actually understanding is this is the Taurus journey. we're gonna be talking a lot about this when we have our class on the death card this week, right? Because every sign comes to work on something that they're not great at. Okay, like it's the full journey of being able to recognize and identify the difference between a gift and a talent is something that like you have to work towards, that helps you come into a space of getting energetically better for it. And so, especially for those who carry a lot of Taurus placements right now, this potentially could feel like a volatile full moon, depending on your relationship to how one navigates the work of change. And we identify this with those with heavy Taurus placements. Taurus sometimes have a less than positive relationship with the perspective of change at times, because and the thing about it, and I feel like often like that gift of change frequently tries to help Taurus on their journey by saying like change is beneficial, right? Like like the ability to change helps us expand upon and build into the sense of learning and finding that deepening sense of what feels like it is for us. But, and we've talked a lot about this during this Taurus season, the paradox that often those with Taurus placements have to experience is the fact that it's very hard for Taurus to find comfort, right? They've got a very refined sense of comfort. And at the same time, it's the understanding that when you start with a little bit of comfort, in order to find more comfort, what do you have to do? You have to get out of your comfort zone. You have to do the thing. You have to do the thing that feels like it's hard to do. You have to push past that fear. You have to push past that anxiety, because what happens when we navigate and we work outside of our comfort zone, right? It fortifies us, because that's like being able to, like, it's a journey of finding the greener pasture, as it were, right? It's going through something that is difficult, not for the sake of understanding what it means, but being able to come to the joy of what's on the other side of it. And that's why you'll often see that those who are like in Taurus, like, well, are often like they come into that space of finding their groove, right? They can do, like, they find that comfortability point. And this is why the Taurus energy is often the energy that articulates upon majesty. But when we're stuck, right? Like when we get stuck into something, right? And it doesn't feel like it's helping us find ourselves, but we're afraid to come out of it. Where do we, what happens? What do we call that? We call that a rut. So, and here comes Mercury, like rushing into Taurus season. And that's why I keep on saying that with Mercury and Taurus, I feel like it's going to feel a little bit retrograde in here, because it's very much identifying the journey of working towards the expansion point of the self, in identifying what feels like a groove versus what feels like a rut, what feels like it fortifies us, what feels like we're expanding, versus something that feels like it's energetically constricting us in some fashion. Continuing to get clarification between our Justice card and our Knight of Wands in its reversal. Can I get one card to clarify, please? Oh man, this card like hotcakes right now. It's because Saturn's about to move. It's okay. So it's the Seven of Swords. It's the Seven of Swords and it's upright. So, like, here's the thing. Here's the thing. We've had a lot of energy moving back and forth of the meridian of Pisces. And this has been like very triggering for everybody for like the last few months. It's been hard for a bunch of different signs. I keep on telling those right now. If you've got Pisces placements over the last few months, you probably been working through a lot of abandonment issues, right? Because there's literally been signs like popping in and out of there's been planets going back and forth into your house. If you've got Aries placements right now, you're probably healing or working on some deep intimacy wounds. It's like get out. It's like Aries, Pisces is saying come back. Aries is saying get out, because Aries has got too many planets in their house. And then we've got Taurus, who's potentially seeing that feel like there's red flags everywhere, because there's so many planets in Aries. It can sometimes, that energy can kind of like feel a little bit disturbing for those with Taurus placements. But that's why, and I kind of want to describe, the thing with Saturn, the thing with Saturn moving has to do also with the context of recognizing the profound effect of a lesson that occurs through time, right? It's timeless lessons. And what's beautiful about that, and we were talking a little bit about this last month, is that ability to speak upon something that is profoundly important, right? We talked a little bit about the difference between holding on to something because it has deep meaning versus things that the ego wants to hold on to, right? And, we talked a bit about, the higher self is not stubborn. The higher self holds exquisite insistence upon something. And the exquisite insistence that the higher self holds is, and I like to describe this, and listen, if you're feeling like this right now during this full moon, if you're holding on to something that you're trying to ask yourself, if it feels like it energetically serves the self, I sit down with yourself and say to yourself, why am I carrying this? Right? Why can't I let this go? Or why am I holding on to this? And what's beautiful about that conversation that you have with yourself is it'll immediately help you understand if what you're holding on to is coming from the ego or the higher self, right? Because what does the ego say when you turn to it and say, why are we holding on to this? The ego says, because it feels good. Okay, it feels good. because it feels good, because I don't want to let go of it. It feels good. It's just, but it doesn't feel good. And here's the thing. It doesn't, right? It's like a hurt so good kind of thing. The higher self will always be in that space of saying, sit down, let me walk you through why this is important. Let me walk you through why this matters. We'll have this conversation as long as it takes, right? Because we talked a little bit about the fact, and we've been talking about this through this cycle, about the fact that when we honor our feelings, it doesn't mean that we just do whatever our feelings dictate us to do. Feelings are like children, okay? There are good feelings, and just like children, sometimes they ask for things that are good for us, right? We honor our feelings. Sometimes, the energetic child comes up and goes, I need a sandwich. And we go, you know what? This is great. I can make you a sandwich. Sometimes the emotion comes up and says, I need like about 18 barrels of kerosene and some matches. And you go, wait, what? And you stop the energetic child and you say, why do you need those things? Okay. Why do you need those things? Come back here. No. Come back. Sit right down. Walk me through it, right? That ability of understanding that the emotions hold on to things from the past, and our ability to identify and recognize why our emotions are strong. It's honoring the feelings isn't just doing something because you feel like it and saying it felt right at the time. It's not just saying like I was honoring my feelings by just doing whatever the feelings dictate from one moment to the next. Honoring the feelings sometimes is why we understand that our feelings are conflicted about things, right? Honoring the feelings is being able to understand the why of the feelings. It's understanding why the feelings feel the way they do, to be able to figure out what to do with them that feels helpful instead of energetically harmful. So I just keep on seeing that that's a lot of that work that we're seeing that's happening right now with Saturn transiting, is working in that space of identifying. And that's why I keep on hearing the space of someone saying feelings have nothing to do with it. Remembering, and this is working on the concept of understanding what we mean by non-attachment. Non-attachment does not mean that you don't have feelings about things. Non-attachment means that you're not governed by your emotions. Because often the difference between working in a space of energetic maturity is not being governed by one's emotions, right? It's understanding and operating in the context of what feels good and what is good, right? So that ability of doing so, recognizing and trying to figure out that path work here. I feel like there's a lot of this energy that is working on during this full moon, identifying and working through feelings to understand what feels like it is fortifying, what one can do to make something feel better versus what one needs to let go of because it's not serving any energetic purpose to carry it. And that's hard work, right? That's painful. It's difficult because you have to look at what you're carrying in order to do so. But this is why we talk about the fact that when we heal intimacy wounds, we don't navigate them from a place of aversion. We often have to go back into things to be able to pull back out something that's important to us, right? It's like working in that context of appreciating and finding the majestic force of the self. And that's not easy because it's not about, again, but here's the thing. A good journey isn't about finding the path of least resistance. It's about feeling the weight of honoring what you're carrying and understanding why. Continuing to get clarification between our Knight of Wands in combination with our Four of Wands in its upright. One card to clarify. Nine of Pentacles in its upright. So it's interesting too because we've got a lot of 7 energy out today on the table. There's a lot of 7 energy out. There's a lot of 7 energy out. And the thing about working through 7, like the context of that is there's conversations as it relates to perfection. And here's the thing about it. This is the irony. Right? perfection is, and we talked all of, and there's going to be a lot of irony happening right now with Saturn moving. But, the thing about working on perfection is understanding that when we when we look for perfect, those who look for perfect live very unsatisfactory lives. They're very disappointed all the time, right? Because you can't find perfect. Perfect is not something that is found. Perfect is something that is made. And when we recognize that, right? And that's the thing about it, that ability of identifying and recognizing and putting the force of energetic effort into something to be able to perfect it. This is how we love, right? And I'll challenge you, if you feel like this, I want you to think about anyone you care about. Now tell me right now, do you care about them because they're perfect? It's not a thing. We love each other in our eccentricities. We love each other in the small things that make us energetically unique. And that ability of identifying and doing that work, right? It doesn't allow for that path work that feels like it's an energetic excuse, right? It's not that space of saying, I keep on hearing no perfections, but no excuses either. And what does that mean? That is majesty, right? Because when we work in the space that says no perfection, but no excuses either, right? We don't say I'm not perfect as a way out of responsibility. Okay, we don't say like nope, like you did it, like it's not an excuse, it's a call to action. Okay, it's not to be stated as the articulation point of doing nothing. It is the challenge to do everything. Because once you recognize, listen, here's the way it works. You will never find perfect, but at every opportunity you are called to create it. Then it changes the way that you see the world. Because you don't look at the world as broken. You see the world in a space of constantly being in a place of needing a little bit of repair. It's like, and guess what? You're the screwdriver. You can be the energetic screwdriver to situations, right? And so that's what we talk about when we look towards the world in that way. And that is what we try to do in a healthy spiritual space, which is not perseverating and working into the anxiety point of aversion that says, and we talk about this here, avoiding spirituality that makes you feel like you're too great, right? If you're on a spiritual journey and you're like, it's great, I believe in something that makes me perfect and everyone else sucks, that doesn't sound like a healthy spiritual journey. That sounds like something that feels very indulgent to the self, right? So that ability of doing so, that ability of being energetically adaptable, not looking at something and saying, this is terrible, I'm leaving, but what can I do to help? Like that space of, again, working in the context of being able to build into that expansion point. This is happening across all of the frequencies. Now, for the energy and separation, I keep on seeing that. This is why I keep on identifying. Like, I just want to show you the energy that we see right now in separation. Look at the beauty here of the Nine of Swords. The Seven of Swords in combination with our Nine of Pentacles, right? And is this energy that's encountering one another and saying, I'm perfect, everybody else I've ever met has just blown it? No. Like, this is the energy. This is the energy that says, I'm working on it, right? I do my best to understand my blind spots. I do my best to recognize what I could do better. It's not that space of saying that everything has always been perfect. This is the energy that says, I find the blind spots because the blind spots are a gift because they show me what I can work on to make perfect. And so that's why I see that a lot of this energy, having those hard conversations, like I keep on seeing like a lot of these like Band-Aid rip moments, just like getting right into it. But this is the energy that almost says to one another, better to have the conversation now than become too energetically invested only to find out that our paths deviate, right? So there's a lot of this energy that we see, like they're doing the hard thing first. And they're actually slowing down the relationship, right? Because they're trying not to get ahead of themselves. But even in that space, that is the energy of growth, which is, again, building into a point of cautious optimism, but also with a lot of care, right? And like that considerable effort of putting the work in, that they're identifying and showing each other that they know what it means, that a relationship isn't just a cozy place to hang out. It's somewhere that you put the work in. Continuing to get clarification for the energy coming into divine union. We've got, and this is a lot of the work that we're seeing right now, that is almost saying to one another, like, this is, I told you, this was the reality check. And I will say that there was some energy that potentially did, like I keep on hearing, there was some energy that potentially went through that heart opening and fell back into separation. But it's a very small margin, is everything I keep on seeing here. Because everything I keep on seeing about this is understanding that, I feel like there's a lot of energy that's understanding and recognizing that, and this is why we heal from trauma, because never are we more at risk of losing the things that we desire than when we come into the space of balance and peace. Because that insecurity, that falsehood, when we find peace for ourselves, but we're used to trauma, it sometimes feels like it's not real. But then that ability of doing so, to build into the context of the energy, what are they saying? They're looking each other in the eye and they're saying, this is the stabilization point. This is your healing from a volatile past. And that ability of doing so and recognizing and identifying where that work is, it creates the ability of feeling the stabilization point to be able to maintain the stabilization of partnership. And so that's why I keep on hearing, what is this energy saying as they're coming into divine union? I've got work to do. They're finding healing that they didn't even know that they had to heal, because often the gift of our hearts is that the heart will hold things until we're ready to receive them. Until we're ready. Like, we can't work on that yet. Nope, this is not the place. This is not the place for it. And then we find the healthy we find the healthy relationship, and then the heart opening happens, and all that trauma we've been carrying is like, surprise, surprise. So bringing us into the energy deep within divine union right now. And I see for a lot of the energy deep within divine union, it feels like energetic it feels reaffirming. It feels patient. It's working on patience. I keep on seeing that there's a lot of energy right now deep within divine union building into the justice card. So it feels to me like it's temperance into justice, which is saying that that's the space that says, like, balance requires the ability to be able to be energetically patient. And patience is being able to observe progress and building into that context of progress. It's not like I keep on hearing, it's not something that you do moment by moment, but charting one's own progress over a longer span of time. So I just keep on seeing that there's a lot of that energy there that's appreciating and building into the space of what it is they are, where they are presently, and how far they've energetically come. Final card for today's spread, between our 7 of Swords in combination with our 9 of Pentacles in its upright. Oh, I love this. We've got our Page of Wands in its upright right now. And I think that there's something really important to be, and I want to point this out. And if you take a look, if you head over to my Substack, you'll be able to see that we've had this card popping up as well over the last few days. It was bottom of the deck. It wasn't the last reading we did, but potentially the reading before that one. But there's a lot of, this makes a lot of sense too. This, and it also has to do with Chiron. Hold on, I just need to see something. So there's a lot of work that we're seeing that's happening right now as it relates to healing the inner child. And that's why I keep on reading the fact that for masculine and feminine right now, these are asynchronous lessons, which means they're representing and they're appearing for masculine, feminine in different ways, but it's all to the same desire, which is a lot of that journey we discussed, of the journey of the Stoic heart. Remembering that a Stoic heart is not a stone heart, right? And there's often been this disambiguation that tries to paint the space of saying, like, the success point and the victory in something is not feeling. And I keep on hearing someone, like, I keep on hearing across the frequencies, whoever gave you the idea that healing in any capacity is the ability of not feeling something. That doesn't sound healthy. That does not sound healthy. In what context have you ever looked at someone and they're like, I'm so healed. You can touch this. I don't feel anything. Like that's not healing. That's concerning. That's concerning. You should get that looked at. You should get that checked out. The ability of feeling, it's working in the space of being able to feel the things we feel, but not feel like we are, held, like not being not being in the sway of the energetic emotions, and honoring the feeling. Honoring feelings does not mean that you don't feel anything, right? Honoring feelings does not mean that you do whatever you want for no apparent reason because you felt called or inclined to do it, and then say, I was just honoring my feelings. That's what that's what a child does, right? When we honor our feelings, we recognize and identify and understand the ability to articulate what has meaning to us. And this is often why sometimes we have to have arguments with our feelings, right? We have conflicted feelings because sometimes we recognize when we have an energetic feeling conflict that the feelings are longing for something, but then we have to bring the rationale of explaining to the feelings why we can't go back there. Listen, this is why we sometimes have a hard time with trauma, because you have a lot of feelings that are created in a very traumatizing energy, and you're trying to move away from it. And your feelings are like, we have to go back there. I felt a lot of things. And you have to say, yeah, but those feelings are not healthy. Right? Like you got to pull them out. You got to pull them back. And so that ability of identifying and working into the space of looking at feelings, not just in the space of honoring them because you have them, but listening to the feelings, looking at the feelings like a child and saying, what are you looking for? What do you need? No, you can't have that, right? But you can have this, right? Working into the space of being able to figure out what's energetically productive. This is allowing for that context of building into new ideas, new plans, new communications, fresh starts, right? And a lot of it, I keep on seeing for masculine and feminine, is working on healing the inner child. For feminine, healing the inner child is feeling confident in one's own ability to articulate upon what it is that you're putting your effort and energy into. I keep on seeing that this is a lot of feminine energy that's healing from feeling the need to be spread so thin, right? And only in being spread thin are they doing something right? Like there's a lot of this energy of feminine that's healing from the space that said, if you keep any energy left to yourself, how dare you? This is the feminine that's almost coming into that space of calling their energy back, because this is the feminine that says that the healthy energetic system, like the healthy energy for the feminine, is one that appreciates feminine at that point of strength, and doesn't want the feminine energy spread thin, doesn't want the feminine energy worn out, doesn't want the feminine energy in a space where they're so energetically frazzled because everybody's asking and nobody's energetically giving. So there's a lot of the feminine energy that's healing their inner child by building into the space of being stronger in terms of being able to articulate their no, but in a space of not allowing or feeling the need of others taking that energetically personally. For masculine, this is more of the masculine coming into a space of reclaiming their emotions, right? If this was a masculine that made the mistake of being told that putting away childish things meant the emotions, this is the masculine going back and saying, no, I need those, right? Emotions are not anathema to being masculine. That's a false perception of stoicism. Stoicism is the ability to feel everything, right? But not be, and this is the thing, the worst thing you can do as a masculine energy is turn off your feelings, because yeah, you can do it, but then you have no control of them, which is why when you start to feel a great deal for someone, you start going energetically haywire because you've never had a moment to be able to learn how to regulate through how you're feeling, because everyone's been telling you to turn them off instead of telling you how to move through them. So we keep on seeing that for a lot of the masculine energy right now, this is hard because this is learning how to do the heart to throat chakra work instead of trying to suppress or white knuckle something, right? Because I keep on hearing that's not strength, that's avoidance. Bottom of the deck on this reading today. High Priestess in its reversal. So I'm not necessarily upset to see the High Priestess in its reversal, bottom of the deck, because I want to one of the things we're seeing here that's happening has a lot to do, and I'm going to tell you right now, it's working through it's working through this Scorpio full moon with the Taurus energy, which is working more in the context of energy that doesn't feel like they like to change. You know what I mean? Like, we don't change anything ever. But like that space, and I want to describe, like, I keep on seeing that there's a lot of that work that articulates upon recognizing and understanding. Like, I keep on hearing a lot of lessons between, like, I keep on hearing, don't confuse avoidance for energetic work, right? This is like, don't confuse someone saying, and I keep on hearing all the difference that occurs in the space of someone saying, I don't want to talk about it, versus I'm not ready to talk about it, right? Because what happens when you talk to someone and you're trying to have a conversation and they say, I don't want to talk to something about something. You basically, like, you feel like you've hit the boundaries, right? You hit the energetic boundary point. Like, you've hit the wall of another person's ego, right? You're like, bonk. And that's why we get so frustrated, because when we've talked a lot about the fact that when we're in healthy partnership in any way, we can always have discussions about something in ways that feel like they're expansive, or they feel like they're like allowing for the articulation of the meaning to be found there. But that's why there's nothing more debilitating than when someone says, like, I don't want to talk about something, because it's like that foot down, like, it doesn't, the silence that occurs is working into the space of energy, like circumnavigating, right? Instead of dealing with it. This is everything that we're talking through. Like, the only way out is through. like the higher self is always like, the only way out is through. The only way out is through. And when we try to energetically avoid something, we usually run smack dab into it, because that ability of doing so, right? Like, working into that context. I just keep on seeing that there's a lot of that space that is difficult, because I can see that there's a lot of hard conversations that are potentially happening right now. But it's the hard conversation that feels like it is expansive, because it is the hard conversation that allows one to, and this is what we talk about, like, when we're able to have a hard conversation talking about something that we couldn't before, it feels like it is restorative, right? It's the ability of working through that. It's not the indulgent point. And this is what we give each other in partnership. And that's why I'm telling you right now that for a lot of the energy and separation, I think it's interesting, because some of these magician partnerships that I see that are happening now, they're challenging each other. I keep on hearing the energy that's almost doing, like, hard part first. Like, let's just get the worst part out of the way. Almost picking up exactly where the last relationship left off. Because that is the energy that almost articulates and says to one another, they're healing, because they're not avoiding, like, something they feel might be uncomfortable. They're just getting right to it. And in that moment, I keep on hearing they're relieved from it, because someone is saying to each other, it's so easy to talk to you, because they're already tackling problems that they couldn't even, that were, like, off territory in some other, like, or feeling like they had to, like, tiptoe around someone in the past relationship as it relates to articulation upon something. And this is what I keep on seeing for the energy coming into divine union. Because for a lot of the energy coming into divine union right now, remember, these are the chariot partnerships. And this is the thing that's hard about it, because for a lot of that energy, holding on to something that you didn't know you were carrying, this is the difficult thing that we talk about with trauma. Sometimes we don't know the trauma we have until we're in a space of energetic safety that helps us recognize it for what it is. And so that's why I keep on hearing, like, new healing unlocked. But it's like, it's the healing that's unlocked that almost feels devastating, because like, what do you say in that moment? I never knew. I didn't know this joy was possible. I didn't know it was this easy. And in that moment, you go, like you look back and suddenly you have to recognize what it is you were carrying. So there's a lot of, I keep on saying that this is a lot of the energy coming into divine union that's uncovering a lot of unresolved trauma that they might not have even recognized that they were carrying. While for masculine and feminine, deep within divine union, I just keep on seeing that for a lot of the energy deep within divine union right now, there's a lot of, I want to describe this as protectiveness. There's a lot of, I keep on hearing there's a lot of conversations in relationality to preciousness. And what do we describe? And this is what we talk about when I keep on hearing not bitter, but precious. Because when we hold on to something for a long time that fortifies us, but moves us in a positive direction, that sense of preciousness, it helps us find meaning, right? But when we get bitter about it, like when we hold on to something and it's not healthy for us, we refuse to let go of it. And I keep on hearing it, like it warps us, it changes us, it turns us into, like, that's the thing, like that's why we have to, why it's so important for us to recognize bitterness within us, because that bitterness, like, will warp our perception, not only about ourselves, but in the world around us. So I keep on seeing that a lot of that energy is working on something during this full moon and saying, like, how can I take something that is difficult and move it into a positive space? How can I take a flaw and turn it to a facet? Because when we come into that space of being appreciative, it's not about trying to be something that we're not. It's not about trying to get mad at ourselves for not being something other, but that ability of appreciating who we are and recognizing even in the places that we falter. Like, often the reason we falter is because we care about something. I just keep on seeing that there's a lot of that ability of working through or letting go of sadness or regret, but all to the extent of being able to do something in a better fashion or building into a healthier relationship. So I told you there's like a lot of that fine tuning there, and it's coming from the context of deep love and appreciation for one another in the process. That is where we find all of the energy prior to beginning today's daily collective read. Now, if you would like to catch that full reading, you can find it over on the place where we keep the videos. You can also find it over on the place where you keep the photos. We can also find it over as a podcast over on my spot at Tarot Church and over on my Substack. We are apologies. So that was our daily collective read for today. I want to thank you guys so much for being here to receive it. Just a reminder, if you would like to book a private reading with me, you can also book one on my site. Please keep in mind, if you book a private reading with me, it is a two-step process. You have to book the reading, you have to pay for the reading. Please make sure you do both if you'd like to have that reading. Most importantly, please remember that I will never, ever, ever, ever reach out to you for a private reading. I will never DM you. I will never PM you. I will never slide into your inbox and tell you that I have a very important message that only I can deliver. The only way you can book a reading with me is if you book one on my site, so I'd encourage you to do so there. A couple of updates before we move into our personal readings today. First and foremost, I want to thank everyone who attended our recent class on the Hangman. Our next class is this Wednesday, and we are going to be focusing our studies on the Death card. It's not that scary, I promise. We are going to go over we are going to talk a bit about the symbology of the card. We're going to talk a bit about the history of the card. I'm also going to walk you guys through spread applications, so how you can read that card in any direction it may appear in your own readings. And I'm going to give you a very unique spread that you can take with you out that class to also work towards integrating the messages or the lessons of the Death card into your own readings. And all you need to do if you'd like to become part of that tarot class program is head over to my Substack and become a paid subscriber. Your paid subscription to my Substack is your ticket of entry into our live classes each and every month. You will also, as a paid subscriber, have access to over 9 hours worth of material in the Tarot Church Library Archive. Now, it's not necessary to catch up. I will be doing my best to give you an update on everything that we've studied prior to beginning that class, but the material is there for you to receive when you're ready to receive it. You will also have access to a one-on-one chat with me and the other students to ask any questions that you may have in relation to anything we are studying or have currently studied. And if you become a founding member to my Substack, not only will you receive a discount on the full year's worth of classes, but you will also have full access to the entirety of the Tarot Church Library Archive. That is access to over 13 hours worth of material in an ever expanding library. You will also have option of receiving a complimentary one-on-one mentorship class with me, wherein I will meet with you personally to assess where you are on your personal tarot journey and give you the best insights in terms of how to utilize those classes to the best of your advantage towards your personal tarot goals. One of the things I tried to do in these classes was make them accessible to the absolute novice tarot reader as well as the seasoned reader. There's definitely something there for everyone. Don't let your lack of experience or your robust experience prevent you from joining us in these classes. And even if you don't become a paid subscriber to my Substack, I would encourage you to follow me there to stay up to date on any new offerings or services. I also post my weekly newsletter there, which will let you know about my in-person events as well as my online live schedule. You'll also be able to receive my Mystic Meditation articles, which give you an update on what we've been seeing energetically in article form each week. I also want to let you guys know that on top of my standard life path readings, I also offer mentorship classes. These are for any of my clients seeking a more personalized educational experience with me. I take a very limited number of students for this reason, as those classes are focused on each individual's personal spiritual goals and journey work. Those classes can be purchased on an individual level or as a monthly class series, weekly or bi-weekly as your schedule permits. Also, for my clients that are seeking more consistent weekly tarot support, I'm very happy to offer weekly tarot insight packages. That is a package of 4 30-minute readings, again, weekly or bi-weekly as your schedule permits, so that you can stay more consistent on your personal journey. I'm also very happy to now offer dream interpretation readings. You can purchase those individually per dream or as a series. I would ask that if you purchase the series, you make sure that you keep a dream journal, as we will meet weekly or bi-weekly with that journal and utilize the tarot to understand the key themes and messages coming towards you in the dream space. I want to thank you guys so much for being here today and sharing in these messages, and we will do this again tomorrow.